now it's time for us to move into our invocation. And Faith, go ahead and move to the next slide, and we'll bring up my friend Rick Smith, Father Rick Smith, so he can do his invocation for our program. Thank you so much.
Well, good morning, or now good afternoon, everyone. It is so great to see everyone. So in addition to serving as a priest with the Orthodox Anglican Church, I also serve as the assistant manager and reentry specialist for our local NC Works Career Center here in Caldwell County. It has been my privilege in my role with NC Works to partner with the amazing staff of Vocational Rehabilitation and the Caldwell County Chamber of Commerce. None of us have all of the answers, but together we are so much better. I would like to say thank you to each of the staff of Vocational Rehabilitation for all you do to improve the lives of those you serve. And thank you for allowing other agencies, including ours, to partner alongside each of you in serving this community each of us loves so dearly. I have also benefited personally from vocational rehabilitation services. Life growing up for my family wasn't so easy. It was rather difficult, as my siblings and I lost our dad when we were young. Our mother did all she could to care for us, but unfortunately, health insurance was a luxury that our family could not afford. At the age of 16, I needed a fairly major surgery on my right leg. Vocational rehabilitation stepped in and not only helped my family pay for that surgery, but they also paid for the first semester of my college. And I will be forever grateful for this. As we look forward to a time of invocation and prayer, I ask you to consider the following verses from Scripture. Genesis 1:27 in the English Standard Version says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." Jeremiah 1:5 goes on in the ESV version and says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you." Proverbs 31:8 in the NIV says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute." St. Augustine is quoted as saying, "Pray as though everything depended on God, but work as though everything depended upon you." This quote from St. Augustine reminds me of the staff of vocational rehabilitation and what they do. Each of them knows the work that they do is beyond their ability in and of themselves, yet they partner with other agencies and seek to serve and care for those who are sadly often forgotten or put to the side even in this great nation of ours. The following is not a prayer I wrote, but it speaks the words of my heart today as we look to God for blessing and guidance in this time together. With the whole people of God in Christ Jesus, let us pray for the church, those in need, and all of God's creation. Gracious God, grow us to be a community of care. Help us to recognize your image in all whom we meet, and to celebrate the diversity of gifts that have been given to each of your children. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For people who are blind and cannot see, and for those who can see but are blind to the people around them, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For people who move slowly because of accident, illness, or disability, and for those who move too fast to be sensitive to the world in which they live, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For people who may be deaf and cannot hear, and for those who can hear but who ignore the cries of others, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For people who learn slowly or learn in different ways, and for people who learn quickly but too often fail to act wisely, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For people who have chronic illnesses for which there is no known cure or relief, and for those who live fearfully of being ill, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For those with disabilities who teach patience, goodness, humor, and the joy in your presence, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For families, friends, and caregivers who support people with disabilities, strengthen them in body and spirit, refresh them when weary, and hearten them in discouragement, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. For people who think they are worthless and beyond your love, and for people who think they don't need your love, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For people who may feel isolated by their disabilities, and for people who contribute to that sense of isolation. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For all the people you have created and love, that we may learn to respect each other and learn to live in dignity and in your peace. Lord, in your mercy, hear all of our prayers. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Father Smith, we appreciate your time and your service to our community, and thank you so much for getting us started today. So Faith, why don't you move us on to our next slide? And I'm gonna take a quick look at our participant list, but we have some fantastic folks here. And as Rick Coffey was mentioned earlier, Rick, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to say hi once again and kick off this event and give you guys credit and kudos just one more time. If you have an opportunity in lieu of us playing a video that we had previously recorded, it's grateful to have you here. I'd love for you to be able to share your words directly with everyone.
Okay, well, I appreciate the opportunity to welcome everybody. We're, again, honored to have the privilege of sponsoring the event today. I did share a little story yesterday, and I'll repeat it with Brian, that we're very privileged here at McCreary Modern. Our custodian that works here in our office and has been with us for over a decade now is legally blind. And we have such a warm and wonderful feel for him. He's a great person and incredible inspiration, but our people here at the plants, we call them our family, provide transportation for him to and from work every day, and he never misses a day. And he's just a wonderful young guy, and we're just so blessed to have him. Just making, like I said earlier, just some reasonable accommodations for someone that has disabilities gives them an opportunity to not only provide for their family, but it gives you self-worth. And I think there's nothing that you can do to provide a benefit for someone by giving them that opportunity. So we're just so, again, blessed and privileged to be able to reach out and utilize people that have these skill sets. And you know, it's a good thing for us to do as a company and as a community. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my thoughts this morning.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate your support yet again for another great year of this conference. We appreciate it. I'd like to also just call out our partnership with this event. This is not really a Chamber of Commerce event. We may be producing and putting a few things on, but this truly is a combination and partnership between ourselves and the North Carolina Department of Human Services, specifically the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. And Stephen Starnes and I have a great passion, and this is really his keynote wonderful event of the year, and it's great for us to be able to partner with them. We normally would have done this event in October, but have an opportunity to do that in November here, and we're just grateful for that partnership that we have there. Not alone with support from McCreary Modern, but Bose Entertainment and Colson Park Catering. Leslie is going to have a chance to speak here in just a little bit about her side of things from Expect More in vocational rehab, but we're grateful for their partnership and support of this event. Our speakers are all gathered here at the Chamber of Commerce today, and we're grateful to have them here, and they're being fed well with catering from Colson Park, who's done a fantastic job for us with a number of our events in the past, and we're grateful to have them here. And I will also give you all kudos and great thanks for attending the event today. So everyone that is in attendance of our event today is going to receive a gift certificate from Bose Entertainment. So you all get lunch like you normally would have. You might have to go to Bose for it, or you get to bowl and have some fun. So we're excited about the partnership with Bose. As a business in Caldwell County, probably closed longer than any other business because of COVID. We're grateful that they're open and serving our community again. And we're going to bless everyone that's attending this event with a gift certificate. And we're thankful for that partnership with Bose. We also want to call out and thank Lenoir Printing for this beautiful backdrop that's behind me that we are going to use for many events yet to come as we merge from just doing virtual events into live events in the future. It'll be great to have this here, and we're thankful for the partnership with them. So without any further ado, I'm going to, let me just call out a couple of folks that I do see. We have a number of ambassadors for the Chamber of Commerce, plenty of members here. I do want to say thank you for Tanya Stevenson with the Burke Chamber of Commerce for joining us today as well. And we're grateful for one of our dignitaries in our community, Dr. Mark Porch from Caldwell Community College for joining us today as well. Dr. Porch, thank you for joining us, and glad to have everyone else that's here attending. So I'm going to turn the program over to the man in charge and guiding everything, my really great friend, Stephen Starnes. Stephen.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you all for being here. I do want to do a shout out to Brian and to Faith and to everyone from the Chamber of Commerce, as well as to McCreary Modern. I always thought that in prior years when we did this event, it was a lot of work putting together a white tablecloth event. It's nothing compared to putting together a virtual event. So thank you again, Brian. We've been sweating the details, or actually you and Faith have, up until the very last minute of this, and I deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate it. Faith, if you'll go ahead and start the slideshow for me there. My name is Stephen Starnes. It is my pleasure and my privilege to work for the state of North Carolina for the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. This event actually is part of what we call the National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Actually, that is normally held in October, but because of COVID, we did push it back. We've been honoring different businesses and recognizing success stories. Because here's the thing, Expect More is all about this. We are about sharing what I call the good news of vocational rehabilitation, which is that hiring individuals with disability isn't some feel-good philanthropy. It's good old-fashioned business smarts. And that's what we're going to try to share with you today by telling you success stories about how employers and employees have joined together to meet the employment needs of our community so that our businesses and our organizations here could compete in this global economy. McCreary Modern recognizes it, and many other businesses do as well. So Faith, if you'll advance the slide, please. What we're going to do is give you essentially what I call a behind the scenes glimpse of the people who expect more of themselves. It's people who have some form of obstacle. It might be physical, it might be psychological, it may be mental, whatever it may be. They have some type of obstacle that makes employment more difficult, but they expect more of themselves. Just as you saw the Richie Parker video earlier, these are individuals who, I hate to use the word overcomer, but these are people who have bypassed or got around their obstacles. We want to celebrate them, but also, as we look at the next slide, we also want to celebrate their employers because it is a two-way street. As you'll see in a few minutes, it takes two to tango. So as we move on with our slides here, we honor both the employees and the employers, and we share in their success. Now, just briefly, I do want to tell you who we are. We are Vocational Rehabilitation. We're a government agency, okay? And what we do is we work with individuals who have some form of disability, that some forms of barrier to their employment. Faith, if you'll move to the next slide. By the way, I don't know if you can tell, but I talk with my hands, okay? So up there, you see on the screen the technical definition of vocational rehabilitation. It comes from the Wikipedia. I took it directly from Wikipedia. And the you see all there, it enables persons to da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's the technological or the technical definition of vocational rehabilitation. But let's move on to the next slide, because what VR really is about is we do provide all levels of services like career assessments and counseling. And there you see a litany of things that we do. If you want to know more about any of those things, please contact me or my colleague Rick Murphy or anybody at a local VR office, or go to our website. But what we really do is we work with people. And what we do is we help them succeed. So if you'll move on to the next slide there, Faith, what we really do is we help people succeed, because Vocation is an old-fashioned word for work. And what we do is we help individuals essentially find the careers or the jobs that they want that helps them fulfill themselves. Because, folks, I believe that people are made to work. They have a desire to find fulfillment in work. And it's when they find that perfect job, that's when they feel totally fulfilled. If you meet, if two people meet, often what they'll do, if they haven't seen each other in a long time, they're old friends, the first thing they'll say to each other is, what are you doing now? Because that's how we tend to define ourselves. So we help people define themselves. I want to share with you a few success stories. Part of my job is to be almost like a public relations person. And I found that the best way to promote VR, to promote the VR story, is to have people share their stories. Now, we're a government agency that's bound by what you probably know as HIPAA. So I can't go out and share people's names randomly and say, let me share this success story. But I can let people share their success stories. And that's what we're going to do today. But I want to give you a snapshot of some of the people that I've had the privilege of working with over the years. Like down in Taylorsville, I work in Alexander County as well as in Caldwell County. I had the privilege of working with an individual whose father told me that this individual had an IQ of about 47. We got him a job down in a furniture factory down in Taylorsville, and he's now the trainer in his department. I've had the privilege of working with an individual who, because of an automobile accident, became quadriplegic. And I've been trying to get him to this event for 3 years, but he's shy. And he doesn't really want to come forward and share his story, but he's quadriplegic. I want you to let that sink in. He works as a fabricator and works as a welder in what I call a chop shop. And if you know anything about mechanics and you know anything about body work and so forth, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. He also, his hobby is making knives. I want to share a story with you real quickly about another quadriplegic. Now, not in this county. I didn't actually get to work with him, but my colleague over in Salisbury actually worked with an individual who sustained an injury that left him with quadriplegic. But his dream was to be a trainer in a gym. And so he now works, quadriplegic, now works as a trainer in a fitness center. And I can go on and on. If you'll advance the slide, Faith, if you'll advance the slide. I don't want to overwhelm you with all these stories, but they're just an incredible litany of stories. Like I've got an individual I had the privilege of working with who was developmentally delayed, yet he now has a great career with Lowe's. He had worked in the furniture industry for many years. He'd found his niche. He was an alt bearer. And those of you that don't know furniture, that's simply someone who unloads the line. He was great at it. I talked to his former employer and they said they'd never had anybody with his ability to be an alt bearer. He could what they call tail two machines. But many of you know, those jobs moved overseas, moved offshore. And so he had to reinvent himself. That was his obstacle. Now, one of our great partners here, Lowe's Home Improvement in Lenoir, employs him there. There's many, many stories. Last year, we shared with you the story of a TBI survivor who started her own yoga studio. Year before, we shared the story of a young woman with cerebral palsy who is now a college professor, in part because she shared her story here at Expect More. And Dr. Mark Porch gave her his card at that event and said, when you're ready, let me know. I've got a job for you. He was true to his word, and she now is an English instructor at Caldwell Community College. And I could go on and on and on, but if you'll advance to the next slide, please, Faith. We know that our individuals are great, but you know what? It takes two to tango. And part of my job is to share, as I said, the story, the good news of vocational rehabilitation with employers. Fortunately, we've got some enlightened employers here in this county, in Caldwell County, in Catawba County, and in Alexander County, and they're open to hearing the story. They're open to hearing how individuals can expect more of themselves, that they're not defined by their disability. So we work with dozens upon dozens of companies, but every year we like to single out one. This year, the partner that we're singling out is my very good friend, Leslie Gray. Leslie is You heard about her earlier. She's the general manager of Bo's, I call it Bo's Bodacious Entertainment and Colson Park Catering. I'm going to tell you something. They're actually the second largest destination center in this area. Number one's a little place you might have heard of called Walmart. She's number two because we get people from all over, not just the uniform, but all over the Piedmont and foothills and the mountains that come here. And this is the woman who heads up the entire operation. I also am proud to call her a close friend. So Leslie, if you will come forward and tell about being an employer that worked with vocational rehabilitation.
Hey everyone, thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Faith. I know a lot of people have worked very hard on this event to bring it here today. As Stephen said, I'm Leslie Gray. I'm with Bo's Entertainment and Colson Park Catering. And yes, we are the second largest destination in this market. We draw from 5 counties. And I've had the pleasure of working with Stephen for a year and a half now with vocational rehabilitation with a young man who came to us who was very, very reserved, to say the least, and a bit antisocial, a little arrogant about it, had an air of arrogance that he came across that way. But instead, he just wasn't confident. And when he came to work at Bo's, it kind of changed everything for him. I learned about him through a leads meeting, and Stephen was just giving a for example of some different personalities and some different challenges that he focuses on and faces with trying to pair employees and employers. And it really caught my ear, and I was very interested from the get. Wasn't a natural match, and wasn't perceived to be a natural match, should I say. But we see potential in people, and you know, everyone looks for reliability, compatibility, and capability. For us, capability is very vague because when anyone comes into the position, they're really not capable. Could I set them loose and tell them to run the bowling lanes and to run laser tag or to prepare anything in the kitchen? Probably not. So everyone has to be trained. So we try to see the potential in people, the determination and the perseverance. And we can train you. We can train you to do anything. If you're willing to learn, we can set you up. A lot of times people just see us as a bowling alley, like, oh, that's a pretty easy job. It's not easy for anybody to get on the microphone, to talk to a couple hundred people at a time, to interact with guests, to problem solve, to troubleshoot, to multitask. We teach all of those things. We teach a lot of soft skills as well. And we're a foundation job for a lot of people. We get them ready for their second job, for college, for the world. We take them in a lot of situations, they don't know how to answer a phone, to sweep a floor, or to mop. All of those things are taught. No one knew right away how to do those things. So everyone needs an opportunity to be taught those skills. And with that opportunity, they can succeed. And at Bo's, we love our success stories. And I love the young man that I was introduced to, because now he holds his head high and he engages with guests. And in fact, I have to reel him back in and remind him he doesn't work in that area, but he ran over to help the guests over there to make sure that they were taken care of. And to me, that's success. That wasn't a skill he had when he came to us. So thank you to Stephen for pairing us together and to allowing us to be a partner with vocational rehabilitation. We have a couple more candidates that we're reviewing now, and one that will start on Saturday. So we're very hopeful and very thankful for the opportunity to partner with vocational rehabilitation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Leslie. Leslie said that she views herself as a foundational employer. And that's so great, because what they do there is often we can place people there and they will be prepped for their next job. She's just a great partner to work with. And as I said, part of my job is to share the good news to the entire community, the good news of vocational rehabilitation. In fact, when I was hired, I was told that vocational rehabilitation is the best kept secret in North Carolina. And it's my job to make that change, to share that message. Fortunately, when I came here, there was already working at Vocational Rehabilitation a good man who was great at his job. His name's Rick Murphy. And Rick and I have been able to partner for the last 6 years, being what we're called business relations representatives. And we go out and we work with employers as well as what we call our clients, the success story people that we're talking about today. And now Rick basically took me under his wing and basically taught me how to do this job. Now, he's my older brother. Now, you're going to look at him and think he looks like my father, but he's going to come up and he's going to share how we stretch people's brains, how we convince employers, hey, look, this person may have a disability, but they're not disabled. Rick Murphy.
Thank you, Stephen. I don't know about all those accolades or anything. Stephen's one of the brightest, kindest folks I've ever met in any job I've ever had, and I love him like a brother. I don't know what slide we're looking at right now, but I think there's supposed to be a slide of a truck. There we go. I learned a lot about disabilities growing up. I learned a lot about disabilities from the vehicles that we had. Seemed like we always had vehicles. We always, for whatever reason, seemed to have a black 49 Chevrolet pickup truck. And it seemed like at some point in their career, they all had to be parked on a hill to roll off in order to crank them. So they worked just fine. But if I went anywhere, I had to always keep in mind I needed to park on a hill so that it would start. We had a vehicle one time that didn't even have reverse. So I always had to be mindful when I went to town to not get hemmed in where I wouldn't be able to back out of whatever situation I was in. One time I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was coming back. I was on the 4th level of a parking deck driving a pickup, and the brakes quit on the top level of the deck. So here I come down 4 levels of a parking deck with no brakes. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, Friday, 5 p.m. Drive time traffic, right down Peachtree Street. I'm driving, no brakes. And don't you know that at that time of day, they have police officers at every intersection overruling the traffic lights. And for whatever reason, it seemed like I was always the first one in line to be stopped. How did I stop? I would gear it down from 4th to 3rd to 2nd to 1st, and then I'd cut it off and it would cut the engine off and it would come to a stop. I'd start it up again and take off. Drove 272 miles back all the way to Lenoir without any accident, without any incident. And so, that's how I kind of look at disabilities. I didn't set those vehicles up, any of them, in a position to fail. As long as I knew what they were capable of, they all did the job just fine. Have we got another slide? Yes. Oh, okay. So, sometimes we talk about the word disabled, and there's a difference between that and disability. Disabled, I think, would be if I was on Interstate 40 and my vehicle broke down and putting gas in it didn't help it, wasn't a flat tire, jump starting it didn't help it. If there was absolutely nothing could be done for it but the car crusher, that's disabled. Well, people are not disabled. We have a disability, and we just need to figure out how to work around that. And that's how I see people. Next slide. So what we do at VR, if there's a mission statement for what we do, what we seek to be is life changers. We look to make a difference in the lives of people and in their employers. And you see how we spell disability? We make sure that part of it's in lower caps, but the rest of it is in all caps, because everybody has ability. Next slide. So if I can just share briefly with you a couple of stories. Stephen knows we've got stories for days. But I was working with one young man who had a learning disability, and he wanted to be a dishwasher. And so We helped him find a job as a dishwasher, and he's doing fine. He's fitting in, but we learned as he's working the job that he needed to be able to break down this commercial dishwasher at the end of a meal cycle. See, in institutional dietary dish rooms, they have huge meal cycles. If it's a nursing home or a hospital, they've got 3 gigantic meal cycles. So at the end of each of those meal cycles, that dishwasher's got really dirty and everything. So you need to break it down, clean it up, put it back together. So he'd been working in that position for a few weeks, and I got a phone call from his boss and said, Rick, we're going to have to let this guy go. And I said, why? He said, well, he doesn't know how to break down the dishwasher. And I said, well, gee, I said, well, let me train him how to do it. So they allowed me to come in, and I thought, how am I going to teach him how to do this? He can't read. And when I would tell him something and ask him to tell me what I just told him, he couldn't remember it. So I thought, what am I going to do? So I broke the job down in, we call it a task analysis, into 12 steps. And then I took a photo of him performing each of those 12 tasks. And I posted them on a board and put it up in the dish room so that when it was his turn, he would look up there and he would do step number 1 and he'd look up and do step number 2. Well, within a little matter of time, we were able to take that away. I got a call from that employer a few weeks after that. And he said, Rick, I'm calling you about so-and-so. And I'm, oh, no, they're going to let him go. And he says, no, he says, I just want you to know he's the best we've ever had, and we're now using him to train everybody else. In fact, he catches me if I skip a step. People with learning disabilities, I absolutely love them because they excel. I had another young lady with a disability, and she had lost her job. She had a speech issue. She was mute. And she had lost her job, and she got a couple of other jobs, and in each case, she was very uncomfortable because she was in a position where she had to speak. So we worked with her to help her get a job as a cleaning in a hotel. And so she doesn't have to speak with anybody. She works on her own. She doesn't have to be closely supervised. She's very reliable. She does a good job. She doesn't have to talk to people. And her employer told me, and I've heard this a lot of times, this is the best hire I've ever made. That's the kind of folks that we work with at VR.
Thank you for sharing those stories, Rick, and thank you for all you do. We're going to deviate from their schedule for just a second because we have 2 employers that just walked in. Actually, they had planned to be here, and then they had their schedules changed. They had to do some training. But I'm going to ask our friends from Lowe's Home Improvement Center to get ready to come up here to the screen for just a second. We have with us Janie Patton and Mara Butler. Let me just share with you that Lowe's Home Improvement has always been a great partner of vocational rehabilitation. But at the beginning of COVID, things changed so rapidly for us. Many of our employers that we traditionally worked with were in a limbo. Some of them had to shut down for a little while. That meant not only could we not do new placements, but we also had some of the individuals that we had working for us laid off. Rick and I went to Lowe's, and Janie and Mara were able to immediately begin putting people on staff at Lowe's, because that's the flexibility and that's also the partnership that we enjoy with them. So I'm going to ask you to welcome, I'm going to ask you to welcome from Lowe's Home Improvement, Janie Patton and Mara Butler. They couldn't stay away. They had to go to some training, but they said, we're going to be there. So come forward.
Hi there, and good afternoon. My name is Janie Patton. I'm the store manager for Lowe's in Lenoir. I've been with Lowe's for going on 21 years now, and I must say that Lowe's has been a great employer to build a career with. I have worked in the Morganton store, the Hickory store, Lenoir store, Wilkesboro, and Boone throughout my career. But today, I just want to really say that working with vocational rehab has been an honor, a great pleasure, and love what Rick Murphy said just a few minutes ago, framing up the word all about ability. And I think that really encapsulates what the vocational rehab program is all about. And so as an employer in the community, that is certainly the approach that we take as we hire individuals working with Rick and Stephen. So at this time, I'd also like to introduce my partner, Mara Butler. She's our hiring manager and works diligently to put folks in our community in the right seat on the bus and get them the training that they will need to be successful. So we're looking very, very forward to the continued partnership with our vocational rehab partners, and I couldn't be more proud to work with this great group.
Thank you, Janie, and thank you, Maura. We appreciate you so much. And, you know, you've heard me talk enough. I hear that a lot from a lot of different people. So what we're going to do is we're going to share with you some great success stories. What I want to talk to you about first is an individual that is going to, he's working today and could not be here. So we're going to share a video recording of William Buchanan. William is an individual who was at the pinnacle of his career. He was working in dietary and food service. In fact, that sounds a little bit simplistic to describe what William was. He had just accepted a position with a place you may have heard of called Disney World to become head of food services down there. He had already worked in Las Vegas in a lot of different capacities, and he was at the very top of his field when suddenly he became what many people call a prisoner in his own body. He woke up one morning and his body had totally changed. He just suffered a massive stroke, a brain bleed, and it had changed him. So without me talking any further, let me cue up, or ask Faith to cue up, William Buchanan. Faith? Faith, I think we were having a little technical difficulty there. Is that correct? Okay,
Yes,
so
I am. I'm going to pull it up now.
okay, I think you're going to really enjoy this. He works at an organization in Hickory, and you're going to see his manager there. Are you ready, Faith? I think she's ready.
With Vocational Rehabilitation, we're here today with William Buchanan. William is the procurement specialist at Trinity Village. And William, that wasn't always your dream job. That wasn't your trajectory. In fact, you had your rocket pointed to a different course, didn't you? In fact, I think you were getting ready to start your dream job when something happened that changed your life. What was that, William?
I was interviewing on second round over at Walt Disney with the opportunity to feed over 3 million people a month. And I had a brain bleed. I had a hemorrhagic stroke. I woke up painless, no evidence of anything wrong other than I just could not get up. I could not get out of the bed. I could not move my arm. I could not move my legs. And went to the hospital. They put me right to critical. And then it took me 2 years to learn to walk again. It took me 6 months after learning to walk again to where I could use a walker without any assistance. And 4 years passed by, and I got in touch with Voc Rehab. And then that's when my life really started to change with the new direction I was in. I found confidence. I found security. I found support. Support is really what I had going for me. And I just went from there, and it's just been a blessing. They introduced me to Trinity Village, who's been a second blessing. It gives me something to do. I have to have something to do. It keeps my mind going. It keeps me alert. It makes me feel like I'm accomplished something. And I've always accomplished stuff, but this is a challenge that it's really tough to handle, and you need a good supporting cast. And I found that supporting cast here at Trinity Village as well as at Voc Rehab. And that's my 15 minutes of fame.
Well, William, do you mind if we bring in somebody that I know is very important to you, and that's Marquita? Yeah. So let's bring in Marquita for just a second here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So Marquita is the executive director of Trinity Village, and she's the person that made the decision to bring William in. And Marquita, can you hear me okay? We've got a little bit of a technical glitch here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So Marquita, what value does William bring to Trinity Village?
Oh, goodness. We are so happy that William is here. William, he values his job, and he takes the responsibilities that he has very seriously. He brings a positive attitude and reliability to the job. And we're just happy to have him. He's got a lot of experience from the past, as he mentioned, which is helpful in his position here at Trinity Village. And I'm really proud of him because he is resilient because of how he's had to adapt to his new way of life, his new way of living. And he's a team player here. He always does more than is expected. And he truly is an asset. I really admire him for that. And we're all about trying to help people have abundant life and quality of life, whether it's our employees or whether it's the residents who live here in our facility. And we are just excited about having William on our team, and we hope he stays with us for a while, for a long time.
Well, thank you, Marquita. We're going to speak for just a second with Rick Murphy, the person who actually brought William to Trinity Village. So, Rick, you met William about 3 years ago. So tell me, how when you first met William, what was your initial thoughts and your reaction?
When I first met Mr. Buchanan, he was still walking very deliberately, he was very tentative in his steps, and also even in his speech. But in talking with Mr. Buchanan, I realized there was really a brilliant man behind those words. And as I learned his story, as it unfolded, and I learned about his achievements in his career, I knew that he had a lot of value to bring to somebody. And I thought, you know what, I just need to find a company that will also see that value. And Trinity Village has been such a great part with VR. And I actually knew that they had been having, maybe need a little help with some of their ordering process. And so I introduced them. And it was a quick marriage, and they realized that he had plenty of expertise, and he just stepped right into a job and became a part of the team. I'm so proud of Mr. Buchanan because what I saw in him is what I always look for in somebody. He was an overcomer. He was determined that he was going forward.
So, Rick, you and William have known each other for a while now. Why don't you, what would you ask William right now?
You know, I would just have one question for you, William. How is your life different now than it was when I first met you at VR?
Well, it feels like I'm operating with a safety net. It feels like I'm not on the high wire alone. So it's different as night and day. Something comes up, I feel like I got someone I can reach out to that knows the answers, that's been through the process, and I just rejoice that I had the opportunity to be with you guys.
Well, William, we've really enjoyed being with you today. Thank you for sharing your story. And Brian, I really appreciate all that the Chamber's doing to help us share stories like William. So thank you, Chamber of Commerce. And we want to tell everyone that you can expect more out of people like William Buchanan. So join us in expecting more as we share what I call the good news of vocational rehabilitation. Thank you very much and have a blessed day.
Yes, sir.
Great stories. We've got tons of them. And I want to share, actually, I'm going to ask someone else to share her story. This is a person that I got to meet about 2 years ago. She was someone who grew up as an athlete, beautiful woman with a beautiful personality. And like William, her body changed on her. And she had to adapt, but that's the great thing. She adapted and she overcame. I am so pleased to introduce to you now a person that not only do I get to serve, but I also get to count as a friend. Corey Harper, will you please come forward?
Thank you so much. That was such a sweet thing to say. Oh, athlete, I don't know about that. I tried. But first of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for allowing me to be here today. Not just be here physically, but mentally, be present emotionally and spiritually, like all together, totally here. And I'm truly humbled, but most of all, thankful. I just have to stress those words because they're powerful and they mean something to me. Actually, if I'm being honest with myself, I would have to say, other than God and my family, my close circle, those words kind of kept me honest. They kept me true to myself. In part, they are the reason that I'm here today. So in my last basketball game, my senior year at West Caldwell, we were in the playoffs. I tore my ACL. I was devastated because basketball was everything to me. I expected to go places with it. With the exception of Karen Trivet, my basketball coach, calling me wimpy and telling us to hit the elevator because we had to run laps. It was everything. I loved it, and I wanted to go to the WNBA before there was a WNBA. I was gonna make it because I loved it. But as you all know, if you have a devastating injury your senior year, all scholarship prospects just go out the window. So I was pretty upset. I just didn't know where to go from there and what I was supposed to do. I didn't really know what my calling was or how I was supposed to even make it because that was going to be my ticket. I had education, to fall back on, but basketball was the reason that I was doing anything at that time. And I had always been a physical person. I know you all know my brother, probably, Daryl Lipford. He was just the best football player to ever live here in Caldwell County. But I grew up running bleachers and jumping bleachers and doing workouts with him every day because he was breaking records at Western Carolina. But when he was at home, he was my babysitter. So he wasn't going to stop what he was doing. So therefore I had to go and do jump ropes and run bleachers and work out and all that stuff too. So what I'm trying to say is being physical was very much, it was just a natural day for me. And so it came easy. So when it was gone, I really didn't know how to handle it. So I went to college and got my associate's degree in information systems. That didn't really produce anything that I wanted to do. I went back to college and got my bachelor's degree in business management. That didn't really do what I wanted either. So I was a parent. I had some kids and was married and, but I missed out on a lot of their lives because I was trying to just rehab from the surgeries. And I said I tore my ACL, but I didn't emphasize that was the first of 15 knee surgeries that I had, or leg surgeries. Let me say that, because after my knee, it started my whole leg. So 15 leg surgeries on my right leg. So I pretty much had to learn to walk again. And it was frustrating because you would see people in the city and in the community, and they would say things like, "Oh man, you got another surgery? You just need to let them go ahead and cut that leg off." And I thought, why do people say things like that? It's so hurtful. I was depressed. I was frustrated. I got back on my feet and I got a job working at East Harper Apartments. I was the manager there, and probably 2 weeks after I started, I stepped in a hole as we were doing inspections. And when I stepped in that hole, I tore my whole left foot up. I didn't realize it. I just kept working for months and months and months, really damaging my foot, but I thought it was like a sprained ankle, so I just kept going. Eventually, the doctor said, "We're going to have to do surgery." And I'm like, I just got a job. I can't do surgery, but I couldn't maintain the job, so I had to go and have surgery. I was depressed because I didn't have a job, I didn't have money, and I just really didn't know what I was going to do. And I talked to someone at Vocational Rehab. And when I tell you they held my hand through the whole process, that is putting it lightly. They helped me financially pay for the surgery. And this surgery wasn't just an easy surgery. I had 5 surgeries at one time on my left foot. Now keep in mind, I already said 15 surgeries on my right leg. Now I had 5 surgeries on my left foot. So learning to walk again was the easy part. Getting over the mental hurdles, that was devastating to me because, you know, when you have those things, you don't really want to walk, you don't want to talk, you don't want to do anything. And Vocational Rehab stepped in. They gave me the tools to get in and out of the shower. They helped me purchase my meds. They gave me a walker, a wheelchair, a portable potty. Yeah, I had a portable potty. And I felt so unpretty, so degraded, so unworthy of just anything. I was depressed. They helped me create something that I'm always be grateful for. They created a spark in my life, a spark that allowed me to look not at myself, not as a disability, but the ability to help someone else, the ability to touch someone else. When I stopped looking at me and playing the woe is me game, it became evident that God had put me here for a reason. I didn't know my purpose. I didn't know my plan, but I just started walking in faith. And with that, I started being acceptable to things that they were offering me that was even more than just the ability to do more. I started being able to want things for myself. Glenda was awesome. She was the sweetest person. Whenever I would come in, she would greet me with a smile. Even if I was 30 minutes late, she would say, "Hi, Corey, it's so good to see you. Now, you know you're going to have to make another appointment because you're late, but they are hiring at this particular place. So you should check it out." And I'm like, okay, you know, I couldn't get mad at it. I was late because I was depressed and I was frustrated and I just didn't know what I was going to do. But she said it so nice and so sweet. She wasn't mean. She didn't tear down my character. She was just a wonderful person. One day she introduced me to a wonderful man by the name of Stephen Storms. When we met, I wasn't in a good place, but he was just nice and kind, and he saw me for who I was. He didn't see me as a person with a disability. He saw me as an opportunity to be the ability to help me and to help someone else. Mr. Storms, he helped me rewrite my resume. He did mock interviews with me. He never told me what I wanted to do was not in my reach. He has always encouraged me. And when I told him I wanted to start a nonprofit for children whose parents were incarcerated, he challenged me. He asked me, "Well, how do you plan on doing that?" And that I didn't know how I planned on doing that. He gave me an assignment. Tell me how you plan on doing that from point A to point B. Throughout the years, whenever there's something going on, he has always remembered me and contacted me and gave me the ability to have a platform to tell my story. I'm thankful and I'm appreciative of that. He wrote a character letter for me to get on a board of directors for North Carolina Families United. And I don't think I've even told him that, but I am now the board chair of that organization. And I'm just thankful and appreciative because I didn't realize I could do these things. Without vocational rehab, I don't think I would have been able to. They taught me how to expect more. And I just want to challenge the employers of Caldwell County and the surrounding counties. Give the clients of vocational rehab a chance to be not someone with a disability, but give them a chance to be able to share their ability to help someone else. Give them a chance to have the ability to, raise their family and prepare and provide for their family the way that they are, the way that they are and the way that they want to be in the future. Give them that opportunity, because just because someone has a disability, it doesn't characterize who they are. It's the characteristics that may have happened, but it doesn't define who they are. So I just want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate it. Mr. Starnes, thank you so much for appreciating me and allowing me to speak today. It's such an honor. I just want to challenge everyone, expect more, be more, create opportunities for yourself and someone else. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. That's all I got to say. Listen, our next speaker, I'm not going to just waste time doing an elaborate introduction. I'm only going to tell you that he's a return guest because he's coming back for the second year in a row, and I did not want him back. Not because I didn't want to hear his story, but because it's my policy not to bore you with the same stories over and over. But my guiding committee said, yes, he's coming back, Stephen. You don't get a vote in this. So without any further ado, for return engagement by popular demand, my really good friend, Brandon Lell. Brandon.
Hello, everyone. Take this mask off here. Stephen said all I had to do was change my hair color, and I'd be welcome back. But seriously, thank you for having me again for 2 years in a row. Back for a second time for Expect More. Everyone here that probably saw me last year noticed the hair color. Started the treatment back in May, and it's removed the melanin from my skin. So now I look like Moses after he got the 10 Commandments off Sinai. But I first want to thank the Chamber for hosting this virtual event, the sponsors, Bose, all the other sponsors, and also DHHS. I mean, my goodness, I know how they have affected my life, hearing Corey's story, and there are thousands within the surrounding communities that they've helped as well. So I hope I'm a valuable asset to maybe speak on their behalf since they're not here today. But my goodness, personally, I had no idea what path I was going to take. But I had very special people within DHHS that took compassion and just showed compassion and started to kind of guide me into a new career path. Some of them are in the room with me today. Obviously, a factory job was out of the question, as you could probably see with the amputation. By the way, do not arm wrestle with Chuck Norris, by the way. But my mouth still worked. So Rick Murphy was like, hey, let's try out sales. So I currently work for a company called My Work Choice. I won't bore you with the details of that, but it's basically an app to where we've allowed blue-collar workers to now self-schedule themselves from their smartphone. But I'm here today to kind of take you on a personal journey of mine. The full story is about an hour. I certainly I want to honor everyone's time, but so I won't go into all the details. But one thing I can promise is not going to be pretty in some areas. Cancer never is, but I'll say this: there's never a miracle without first being a problem, and there's never a testimony without the test. Faith, if you could please switch to the next slide, please. So the central theme around this message is choices. Now, we can't always control how people are going to act towards us and things are going to act towards us. It'll be slide 2, please, Faith. About the choices, right? So we can't control how those things act towards us, but we can control how we react to them. The key is setting the tone at the beginning of every single day about how that day is going to turn out. And as you can see, it's kind of the quote there I live my mantra by is, every day begins with a choice. You can be bitter or better. One vowel can change your life every single day. So with that first thought, that first breath in the morning, do you want to choose to be bitter for that day or be better? Faith, you can go to the next slide, please. So the next is we all have stories to tell. You know, our stories could literally create a legacy of encouragement in someone's life or lead them down a path of destruction. Words have power. So are you going to choose to elevate or devastate with the words that you're telling other people, build up or tear down? Now, I'll share some very basic questions that I get asked of me all the time about the amputation and the cancer story. So it's got to kind of call it the book of Brandon, if you will. But I encourage you all within the sound of my voice to put your testimony on paper. You never know how it's going to change someone's life. So what happened? When did it happen? And most importantly, why did this happen to me? Faith, if you can go to slide 4, please. So what happened? I was actually sitting at a SureTape meeting. They're a tape manufacturer plant in Hickory, North Carolina. And I hope this doesn't happen to you on the behind the screen here, but my butt got numb. So I kind of squirmed in my seat because the meeting was taking too long, and I folded my arms underneath my armpit, and that's when I found it. I found a knot a little bit smaller than the size of a quarter at the upper portion of my right bicep. I didn't waste any time to see what that was. I knew that it wasn't bone. I knew that it wasn't muscle. That was certainly a mass. So I went to go get it checked out. They confirmed that it is a mass, but this could possibly be cancer after a pathology result, after a biopsy. I was like, cancer? I just turned 30 years old. Cancer is an old person's disease. It can't be cancer. So it was actually confirmed once they sent me to Duke Cancer Center after 3 operations in an 8-month period to try to save the limb. I was left with one option, which was amputation. So they sent me to Duke, and I'll pause for a second. I'm a big Carolina Tar Heel fan. So just kind of saying the word Duke kind of makes me want to throw up right now, but I'm not going to do that just for screen time purposes. That would not look good on a replay. But let's just go ahead and say going to Duke was not my first option. But I'm glad I did. I mean, they knew my case, but they did not know my face. So they were happy to put that face with the case number. And they did their own scans, acting like I was a brand new person off the street. Well, when they did those scans, they found it had metastasized, which means it had moved into my lungs, my left lung. So if you can imagine the emotional roller coaster within a 4-hour period, I went from a second opinion of possibly losing an arm to now I'm sitting in pre-op trying to remove cancer from my lungs. So I don't know if you can put yourself in that position, but talk about an emotional roller coaster. So they actually put the amputation on hold and did the lung operation on December the 13th, 2013. And what's interesting about that date, it was Friday the 13th. And so, yeah, my superstitions were there as well, but I knew I needed to get it under control. So started to heal up into the new year, but I'll tell you what, that lung operation was the worst to try to recover from. I mean, the other PT that I had, the physical therapy, arm didn't move, don't move it. Well, it was impossible for me to stop one lung from breathing. Every single breath felt like I was breathing fire in and breathing fire out. So I'm just very grateful today that I got through that. Faith, if you could please go to the next slide, please. So kind of going over the timeline recap, diagnosed July 3rd, 2012. Throughout 2013, I had 4 surgeries in 8 months, 3 on the shoulder, 1 on the lung. And I say that because it's now been really, over 7 years now that I don't have an arm? Excuse me, been 6 years now. So I just celebrated my ampuversary. But I don't remember what it's like to have a right arm anymore. Now I have memories. I used to go up to Bose and bowl with my right arm. Actually a pretty decent bowler. try to get on a circuit, but the physical effects of having an arm, I don't know what that feels like. What I feel now is the best way I can explain it is you've seen the black and white television fuzz as a kid, right? And you turn the volume up and you hear the static. If you could turn that sound and that sight into a feeling, that's what I feel on my right side, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's like those nerves are constantly trying to find something to control. Since God created them to control my arm, those nerves are still firing, trying to find muscles and tendons to operate. So that's probably the best way I can kind of explain the nerve pain. Faith, if you go to the next slide, please. Slide 6. So the previous slides were pretty much all physical. Now we're going to get into the fun part, the psychological side, the psychological journey. Now, I became a very bitter person. As you can see on the screen there, that's where I got the grumpy puppet there. And I kept asking the question, why me? Man, I'll tell you what, I was seeing a lot of people that I thought deserved cancer a lot more than I did. But I just started looking for answers. And I tried to find those answers in the wrong places. Tried to find them in pill bottles, tried to find them in beer bottles, liquor bottles, and even baggies. Only more questions. Isn't it interesting how that all works out? Now I was completely broken. Was out of money. My friends were gone. I now know them as sunny day friends, friends that are around when things are bright and things are good, kind of disappear when the storm comes. Even my own best friend said, I hope that cancer goes ahead and kills you. Even saying it now kind of gets me choked up, but when he said that, it sent me to an abyss of loneliness, just complete self-pity, and just down a path that I did not want to go down. I even contemplated suicide. I thought, you know what, I can end it right now, and it'll all be over. My friends can just pick up the pieces, the ones that were left. My family would just pick up the pieces and they'll move on with their life. I'll be doing it this world a favor if I'm not here. Well, I was actually being very, very selfish. I had this cloak of darkness around me, and anyone who's ever dealt with depression knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's that cold, wet, comfortable blanket that you just don't know how to get off of you. But I did have some around me that still cared for me, and they challenged me. They started asking me good questions like, do you believe in God? And what kind of legacy are you going to be leaving behind for people? Those are some thought-provoking questions if you've never been asked it. And I was also challenged to choose my path. He said, do your research. Start with the New Testament. If you find out it's true, you're going to have a set of rules to go by that's not your own. However, if it's not true, you can leave scorched earth behind you without any consequences. It's like, okay, sounds pretty good. So I started in Matthew. Didn't take me long. I got down to Matthew 16:24. If any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, pick up your cross daily, and follow me. Now, he didn't say follow Christians. He didn't say follow your pastor. He said follow me. Go to the source to do these things. The worst advice I've ever received in my life was just be yourself. The best advice I've ever received in my life, be more like Jesus. I'll share with you the bitter or better story where I kind of live my mantra. A gentleman that I worked with at SureTape saw me going through all this. He saw literally me going from a worker there to now barely being able to pick my head up off the pillow. And he said, Brandon, he started off with empathy. He said, Brandon, I can't imagine what you're going through right now. I just can't. But, that key word, but, I see you becoming very bitter. It's affecting people around you, but I want to issue you a challenge to be better. He said, if you wake up in the morning and you're bitter and you're focusing on the I in bitter, you're only thinking about yourself. However, if you wake up in the morning and you focus on the E in better, that's on everybody else. Start focusing on them and watch the world open up to you. I issue that same challenge right now. And also the 5x5 rule. I don't know, as you can tell, probably by now, you know I love quotes. It's the 5x5 rule. If it doesn't matter in 5 years, then why are you spending 5 minutes worrying about it, right? Did I really have a bad day? Or did I just choose to milk 5 bad minutes of that day? It's cleaned my life up a whole lot and focused on priorities. Faith, if you go to the next slide, please. Thank you. But most important, why did this happen to me? You get to choose your legacy. I'm also a John Maxwell speaker, trainer, coach. And he says, people may hear your words, but they feel your attitude. You see, if you hear me saying this, all these things up here, and you see me out in the grocery store blessing out a cashier, it's all in vain. So I need to walk this walk that I'm saying, because that is part of the legacy. It's not just words, it's actions as well. And to realize that the world literally owes me nothing, but I owe it everything. It took me over 30 years to figure that out. I was actually working at DHHS as being in on my case, and Sherry LaFone said this to me on a private level. She said, happiness is a mood. Contentment is a lifestyle. Think about that for a second. Happiness is a mood. Contentment is a lifestyle. Moods change. You're going to be happy. You're going to be sad. But however, if anything in your life would be removed, could you be content? I've lost both of my parents. I've lost my right arm. I almost lost my house. If I ever lose my wife or my children, could I be content through that? That is a very challenging question, but that's where you find freedom. I can wake up to be grateful, or I can wake up to be grumpy. And it all boils down to easy or hard emotions, right? I mean, some of the easy emotions we can think about, jealousy, hate, rage, envy, all those just require instinct. I try to focus on hard emotions. It's the hard part of life, but Galatians 5:22 actually speaks of those. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Struggle with that last one. You can stay on this slide. So continuing on that, but I want to do a little experiment. I know this is going to be kind of hard virtually, but I want you to put your hand over your eye for me. Now you can use two hands. I'm forced to only use one. I have a monocular. You guys feel free to use binoculars, but what's your scope of life right now? Are you seeing red because you're just angry at everyone in this country? You're just mad at the election. You're just mad at anything. Are you seeing blue because you were like me and you were just so depressed that you could barely breathe? Or are you seeing green, only focusing on fame, fortune, and money? Do you want presence or do you want presence? Now, it sounds exactly the same, but are the things that you buy going to make you happy? Or is it situations like this where we're amongst people to enjoy presence of other people? It sounds the same, but it's drastically different. But I'm here to tell you, there is nothing that can equal this experience. Apple can't create it and put it on the shelf. Neither can Samsung. This is what life is all about. You got to build quality of friendships through that, right? Now, it's not necessarily about quantity. You don't need 100 pennies when 4 quarters will do. However, I'm looking at the camera when I say this. Never, ever give up on people. I say that because I used to see myself as a penny at one point in my life. I had people pouring value into me to where I started to see myself as a nickel. Then I started to turn into a dime. At this point, I just hope to God that I'm worth at least $1 to my family. You can do that to others. You can start to add value to yourself, and then you can add value into others. So don't ever give up on anyone. Now, doctors have given me roughly a year left, and I know that's sad. I have 80 spots currently growing within my left and right lungs without a worldly cure to cure me. Honestly, had to come off that treatment that's turned my hair white. I come off the treatment last Tuesday. It's unfortunately not working. I have spots all over my face, the back of my neck, the back of my head. But it's okay. It's interesting that I know that there's a possible expiration date for me. But I ask you this, would you want to know? I wish I could see everyone's face so I could see their hands, but would you want to know your expiration date, your possible expiration date? I usually don't get a lot of hands with that. But the reason I ask, would it change you? Would it change your perspective to maybe open up a door for a stranger, smile at a stranger more? Would you call your parents and tell them that you love them? Would you sit down with your kids and look them in the eyes, not through a screen, look them in the eyes and tell them how proud you are to be their parents? Ladies and gentlemen, that's what it's all about. We all don't know when our expiration date is. We're not promised tomorrow. So please take advantage of the time that you have. I see my possible expiration date as a blessing now. So that leads me to the last point on this slide, which is responsibility. It's my job to set an example for my daughter Stella and my wife Jordan. I want to be an example to my wife. If she decides to remarry, it's very difficult for me to talk about my wife remarrying someone. Sorry. But if she remarries, I want her to marry up, find a man that's going to treat her better than I ever could. If my daughter, when she starts dating, decides to settle on a relationship, I want her to remember me and the value that I poured into her, that hopefully she'll find a man that is going to equal that or be better than I am. Before I go to that next slide, Faith, I want everyone to help me with something. I want you to close your eyes where you're sitting right now for me, if you feel comfortable. You see, it's hard for me to pray for my enemies. You know, it's easy for me to love those who I love. It's easy for me to pray for them, but someone I hate is very difficult. With your eyes closed, I want you guys to think of your worst enemy. They could be in the room with you, the same factory, the same building as you. They could be in this state. They could be in this country. They could be a government leader or anywhere in the world. Just have them fresh in your mind. You got them in your head? Good. Visualize that person in your mind as you hear these next words. You see, I've never come face to face with my enemy, so I decided to write a letter. Faith, if you'll go to the next slide, please. Dear Cancer, if you'll hit the right arrow, please, 4 times, please. Dear Cancer, I must thank you. Thank you for everything you've brought me since being diagnosed. I've gained faith, a wife, new family members, new friends, and a perspective on what life means. Most likely, I would not have any of those things without you. You see, I used to hate you because I realized I didn't know you. I've learned a lot about you since you've become a part of my life. To hate you means that I hate myself because you are a part of me. You are made up of my cells. You just didn't know how to die correctly. Well, guess what? I'm messed up too, and I don't know how to die correctly either. You've been my enemy for over 7 years now. You've taken parts of my body, my mind at times, and most hobbies that I enjoyed. But I'm called to pray for my enemies. So I will start to pray for you. I pray that you start to be understood more clearly. And I also pray that one day you find peace and rest as well, and to know that you do not have to destroy something to be recognized. Best regards, your host. Now, with your eyes still closed, can you find it within yourself to pray for your enemy? You can open your eyes now. You see, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die from it. Don't let anyone or anything live rent-free inside of your head. It's not going to be easy to forgive, no matter who they are. But if you want freedom, that's the only way to do it. Love only grows out of forgiveness. And I hope you can tell by now, guys, like, It's funny and it sounds oxymoronic, but cancer has been the most wonderful experience of my life. That sounds crazy. I'm thankful for cancer in a weird way, and I'm thankful for God's discipline through it. I'd still be on a crooked path, and I most certainly wouldn't be speaking in front of you today. But I'll leave you with one last thought. God willing, we're all going to wake up in the morning to have that choice to be bitter or better. How are you going to approach tomorrow? Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Wow. Not sure how I can follow up with that, but thank you, Brandon, and everyone else that was here today speaking. This is why we call ourselves Carewell County. So much care in this community, so many different ways that we can help each other. And we're just grateful that you all could join us for this great event. We know it went long, but some of these stories you can't curtail by a clock. And we're grateful that all of our participants, sponsors, and organizations helped share and make this a successful event. We're really grateful for the North Carolina Department of Vocational Rehabilitation for all they do in our community. And we just want you to expect more in 2021 as we move closer to that date. We know there's lots that we can put behind us with 2020, but we can definitely care more and expect more in 2021. We'll wrap it all up. Thank you all for joining us. We're thankful to have the opportunity to do this. And we have a recorded event, and we're glad to be able to share that. We'll make sure that that recording is available for all of you to be able to share with those in your inner circle. Thank you so much. Hope you have a blessed and wonderful day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.